Hi, good evening everyone. Today we will be talking about nmat. First I'll take you through a brief introduction of nmat, then we'll see some verbal questions from nmat. So let's begin with the introduction part. So nmat is an entrance exam for admission to all the MBA full-time courses of Narsi Munshi Institute of Management Science, which are at Mumbai and Hyderabad and Bengaluru. Narsi and Mumbai provides, apart from general management course, provides some specialized management courses as well. Whereas Narsi institutes at Hyderabad and Bengaluru provide only the general management course. So eligibility criteria. So the candidate must be a graduate with 50% of marks or an equivalent CGPA in his first attempt. And if someone is in final year, then he'll be allowed to take the exam with the condition that he gets an aggregate of 50% marks or an equivalent CGPA in his final examination. So, and there is for all the full-time programs, candidates with 2 or more work experience of post-qualification work, 2 or more years of post-qualification work experience will be preferred. So this is the test pattern for the exam. For language skills, that is verbal section, we have 32 questions in just 22 minutes. So you are expected to solve, expected to devote around 40 seconds to each question in the verbal section. In the quant section, there are 48 questions with 60 minutes time in hand. In logical reasoning, there are 40 questions with 38 minutes. So overall, you have 120 minutes for 120 sections, 120 questions. And this is a computer-based test that is conducted over a 10 weeks period. So we do not have any specific question paper for last year or previous years. So, and you can select your test date according to your availability. So there are 2 changes in the admission process, 2 big changes in the admission process. One is case studies instead of group discussions, and second is ethical and decision-making questions in written test. So why case studies instead of group discussion? The Narsi Munshi faculty believes that during group discussion, the discussion is lesser discussion and more of fish market. And in case studies where the candidates have to interact on facts, such kind of discussion would be a more managerial discussion rather than a fish market. And ethical decision-making questions. So one of the reasons this is being focused is to bring more non-engineers and make the paper unbiased. So also they want to take in more ethical people. So that's why ethical questions. So overall, the questions for nmat are vary from easy to moderate level. However, time in this exam plays a very crucial factor. So on average, you saw that on average you have 1 minute per question, and in some sections like verbal, you have very less, 40 seconds per question. So time is of utmost importance in this paper. And if you somehow during the nmat exam, if you somehow get stuck in some tricky question, you should avoid over devoting your time in that question, in those types of questions, because Those types of questions will be very few and will not be deciding part. You should get hold of easy questions first and just maximize your score. So because this particular section that I am taking would be about verbal ability, so I'll be talking about language skills. So language skill sections had two comprehension passages, and remaining topics were like mark the error in the sentence, filling the blanks, jumble paragraph, opposite and similar meanings. Again here considering the time factor, 32 questions, that is 32 questions in 22 minutes. Uh, you, I would advise leave RC in the beginning. Do the rest of the questions which are very straightforward and which are easy to attempt. And once you have gone through all the other sections in the verbal, get to RC and solve them. So let's begin with it. So first question that I would be putting here would be a verbal question, or sorry, RC question. Okay, so here is the first passage. It's a not very long passage. Just go through it and also take a print screen of this. When we get to questions, uh, you can go back to your print copied image uh, and uh, refer to those while solving the question. So read it for a few minutes and do take a print screen of it. Okay, I forgot to mention one thing. Uh, the nmat test does not have any negative marking, so you are free to take guesses in the exam, but do take calculated guesses to increase your chance of succeeding. Okay, so I hope everyone has done the reading. Let's move on to the questions. And those of you who have not taken print screen, please take it now. Okay, so here is the first question. Okay, so we are getting a lot of answers here. Uh, the question asks, the author's attitude towards poets differ from that of general public in that A, most people have a patronizing attitude while author is in awe of poets. B, most people take poets to be impractical dreamers. Uh, the author has a great deal of faith in those dreams. C, contrary to popular belief that author looks upon poets as chimerial visionaries. And D, he holds them in high esteem. So one is most obviously false because uh, the author has a very positive views about poets, and patronizing means looking down at them. So A is clearly not the answer. Similarly, C, if you look at it, contrary to popular belief, author looks upon the poets as chimerical visionaries. Chimerical means someone who lives in his own chimera means someone's own fantasy. So uh, when he says that he looks upon poets as chimerical visionaries, it means that he believes that poets are someone who live in their own fantasies without any connection to the real world. So C is not the answer. Out of B and D, C D is also correct, but B is more correct. It B in the sense captures what the paragraph was about. So what the first sentence, more like the first part of the paragraph was about. His first part of paragraph says that people say poets are dreamers. So that sentence means that people believe poets to be impractical dreamers. The author agrees, but he has faith in those dreams. He says he sees that those dreams are not impractical, maybe impractical today, but will become practical in future. So B is the correct answer. Next question. Sorry. So yeah, we have a lot of answers and most seem to concur. From the question is from the para, one can safely conclude that A. Poets inspire scientific research. B. Without imagination, there would be no progress. C. The greatest achievements of today were once fanciful dreams of some people. And D. Poets live in intangible future. So out of these options, C is the um, closest one, closest to one, the message that paragraph carries. The paragraph comes up with numerous examples uh, where they say that some invention like automobile that were once dreams of people, and these before becoming achievements they were uh, fanciful dreams of people. So C would be the right answer for this question. Okay, so uh, I think some of you are not convinced that C is the right answer for this question. So let's start with the options, with the option that can be clearly rejected. The option that can be clearly rejected here is option D. Poets live in intangible future. So intangible means something that is far from reality. So again, that's not the message that the paragraph carries. So D is not the correct option here. Uh, Out of A and B, A and B are not wrong among wrong here. But see, it will it, the message that it carries. The first, if you look at the uh, first sentence, poets inspire scientific research. So that means to say that all the scientific research in the world are inspired by poets. And if you look at it, sometimes that may be true, but it will not be true always. And part B, without imagination, there would be no progress. So while the paragraph says that some of the very significant progresses were achieved because of imagination of people, imagination of poets, but it nowhere says that that imagination is the only thing that that produces progress. There could be something else, but he says the author says that imagination is a very significant part of it. So that's why C would be the most correct answer here. C of because I'm saying that C is correct because the passage carries examples of it. So author clearly believes in those things, while the author has a tone that concurs with the first two parts, but you do not find an example of it in the paragraph. So there would be two RC questions, and yeah, and depending on the questions, so you need to do that really quick. So, for example, this question has this particular RC has 4 questions. So you need to put in maximum 5 minutes in this type of question. I'm saying maximum, that's the upper limit. If that is breached, you got to leave that. So the third question. So the question is, which of the following statements is least erroneous? So it means to say that you have to select uh, a sentence which would contain least error, or in other ways, which you have to select a sentence which would be most correct. So option A, the poet has more faith in future than all the scientists, more faith in the future than all the scientists and artists. B, the author lays more faith in poets than most of us. C, progress will stop if the poetry turned realistic. And D, none of the above. So again, because we had discussed this in the last question, so the part C is not very correct. It could be correct to some extent, but it is not entirely correct. That all the progress would stop if poetry turned realistic. Then option, if you look at option A, the poet has more faith in the the poet has more faith in the future than all the scientists and artists. Again, the author nowhere suggests that a poet has more faith in the future. On the contrary, uh, the author suggests that the poet designs the future. He designs it by his way of imagination, which gives the scientist material to work upon. So the option B, the author lays more faith in the poets than most of us. That is the correct option. It can be seen from the first part of the paragraph, where where the author says that poets dream, but not in the sense that other people believe that they have very irrational dreams. He believes that they have dreams which have a tendency to become realistic in future. So so B is the answer for this question. And moving to the next fourth question. So and let me be clear beforehand. These are not the nmat questions. These are mock questions for nmat. I could not get nmat questions because it's computer generated questions. So there is no fixed paper for nmat. So this is the closest mock paper I could get. The answer for the previous question was option B. The author lays more faith in the poets than most of us. So the fourth question, what is common to both poets and scientists? Okay, so uh, what is common to both poets and scientists? A, both can change impossible to possible. B, they live in a world of their own. C, they are cut off from reality. And D, both dare to dream the seemingly impossible. So, uh, if you look at it, uh, the options B and C seem most implausible. Here is why. Because uh, the option C, they are cut off from reality, and option B, they live in a world of their own. That means that uh, whatever happens in the real world, they have no connection to it, no bearing to it, and no, and their actions have no consequence on it. While at least in the case of poets, we have clearly, the author has clearly mentioned that uh, even though their dreams seem absurd right now, they become reality in future. So saying that they live in, they are cut off from reality, or they live in a world of their own would be incorrect. Option A and D are very close. Both can change impossible to possible, and both dare to dream the seemingly impossible. So, so if you look at it, the first option, if you look at it, uh, the paragraph mentions that poets can imagine the impossible. They can do the designing part, but changing it from an impossibility to possible, that is the work of the scientist. Whereas both poets and scientists need to visualize their creation uh, before it is actually turned into a reality. So a poet will through his imagination give an idea of the impossibility. They dream the impossibility, and the scientist derives, though he derives from the poet, he also has to dream of that impossibility before he can convert it into an invention. So option D would be the answer for this question. So now that brings us to our next paragraph. So here is paragraph passage 2. It is a slightly longer passage, but bear with me. Okay, so I hope everyone has read the paragraph. So we'll wait just 1 more minute and then we'll move to questions. And this do take the screenshot of the paragraph. Okay, so let's go to the first question. Okay, so question 5 is, as far as authors stand regarding the credibility of the government is concerned, it can be best described as A. Optimistic, B. Humorous, C. Skeptical, and D. Serious. So I think this question is a very simple question, and almost all of you have given the correct answer. So it's skeptical. Author is definitely not optimistic because he sees that the policies that government is pushing, the uh, focus on economic growth, and all are very degrading for environment. He's definitely not humorous. He's skeptical. He does not believe that the policies, the promises of the government will bear fruit. Or on the other hand, it might prove very disastrous. So, skeptical is the correct answer. And here is the solution for the question. So let's move to the next sixth question. So the sixth question asks, the author suggests that in order to attain the golden mean, we must A. Carefully understand the economic implications of our actions, B. Shun the self-righteous moralist and look for practical solutions, C. Relate the tertiary industries to the secondary ones, D. Try to look beyond mere economic definitions. So if you look at the para, you will find uh, the the answer for here would lie in this part. So it says that there is therefore a golden mean, a balance, as in all things ecological, between poverty and wealth, between need and greed. This is an area for values, education, culture, social aspirations, human satisfaction, uh, especially among those who have them in sufficient measures and think other than economists call good. Look at the last line of it. So the author suggests we have to look into other things than what economists call goods. So if you look at the options that we have, the last line and the last option that we have uh, seem remarkably close. That we have to look beyond mere economic definitions, or what economists define what is good. So D would be the answer for this question. Here is the solution of sixth question. So now to the seventh question. So yes, every one of you has given the right answer. It's option D. See, the first thing that the author does not explicitly talk about the Western models in the para. He does mention liberalization measures, liberalization and globalization policies, and he does condemn them. So, uh, option A, B, C, which the idea of options A, B, C are central to the Western models of growth, which the author does not really talk about. Option B, India should always strive to attain an ecological harmony commensurate with need and aspirations of teeming millions. So this actually makes sense. As author repeatedly in the paragraph talks about the ecological harmony. So here is the solution for this question. Okay, so moving to the 8th question. So let's discuss this question. So the question says that the theme of the passage is a discussion on the genesis and perpetration of environmental degradation. So this means that it is a discussion on the beginning and growing out of environment or it it means the beginning and the spreading of environmental degradation. Option B, a critical analysis of role of rural ecosystems in maintaining the fragile ecological balances. So again, it says that it is an analysis of the role that rural ecosystems play in the whole picture of maintaining ecological balances, which are very fragile in nature. And C, a description of role of government in maintaining stable ecosystems. And D, the role of Western growth models in environmental degradation in India. So let's start with option D. So as we saw in the last question, the paragraph really is not about Western growth model. So we can conveniently reject option D. So between A, B, and C, if you look at option C, again, though the role of government is mentioned a few times in the paragraph, the central theme or the thing that is in author's mind while referring to the role of government uh, is not that how important a government is in maintaining ecosystems, but rather than ecosystems are being destroyed, and what has government policies done in that. So it would not be a central theme of the passage. And if between A and B, it's a difficult choice. But uh, but if you look at the paragraph, the author does not really talk about a set of uh, ecological balance or a narrow set of ecological systems. The author talks about everything from dam rivers to forest cutting uh, to even rural ecosystems. So because option A, which option A is more encompassing in nature than option B, we will select option A as the answer. Option B is not entirely incorrect because the author does touch upon these topics, but option A would be the correct answer. So here is the solution for the eighth question. So let's move to the next question, that is the ninth question. Okay, so let's discuss this question. The author is most likely an uh, militant environmentalist, a newspaper editor, a human rights activist, and an industrialist. So let's begin here with what is easiest to reject. So the author is definitely not an industrialist. He's not a big fan of economic growth, and he's also not a big fan of industrialization that's happening in rural areas. And we can also reject C, that in the sense that the author does talk about the author does talk about the tribal people, but it really does not concentrate on that. He's basically more concerned about the environmental degradation. So C and D are fairly easy to reject. Now between A and B, see, you can only select B when you can reject A. If you cannot reject A, then you cannot really select B. So one thing to find out, can you really reject A or not? So see, had it been pure only environmentalist, it would have been a very easy choice. The environmentalist would have been the correct answer. But with the word militant here, you have to also check this word militant. Does it conform to the tone of the paragraph? If you look at it, the tone of the paragraph, uh, while it does show concern for the environment and what needs to be done, it is pessimistic and all that, but it does not really go to the extremes. It talks about a balanced approach, the golden mean. A militant environmentalist would not talk in that way. He would be at the extremes. So because of the word militant here, we can say that uh, this does not conform to the tone of the paragraph. So we can reject option A, and that will make option B, newspaper editor, as the right answer, which can be confirmed from the fact that the author does not limit his views to very narrow things. He talks about government policies, he talks about tribal people, he talks about golden mean, he talks a lot of things that you normally expect a newspaper editor to talk about. So option B is the correct answer, and here is the solution to the question. So now let's move to our next set of questions. It would be a para completion question with a slight change. Normally we have para completion questions where we have to put in the last line of the paragraph. Here a sentence is missing from the mid of the paragraph, and there are three possible fillers, A, B, and C, and according to them we have four options from A to D. So you have to find out which of the fillers or which of the combination of fillers can be used to fill the gap in the paragraph. So here is the first question. Okay, so the tussle is between options A and option D. Let's look at it. Most people have certain prejudices against certain types of styles of writing, dash, but these are common and meaningful modes of communication that we need to study and understand. So from the last line here, we can derive that the whatever the sentence was just before it had a mode of writing that is very common and meaningful mode of communication. So from the options we look for those things, those types of communication which are very common and meaningful modes. So if we look at option A, for example, popular science and children's fictions are considered unintellectual. So since there is popular science and children's fiction, these are automatically very common, and to their audience they are quite meaningful modes of communication. So A could be a possible answer. If you look at B, some of us would regard Sunday magazine, journalism and advertising as cheap and even improper. Again, this uh, Sunday magazine is a magazine which are magazines are, as we know, common and meaningful modes of communication to their audiences, to their audience. So again, this can also be taken as a possible answer. Option C, if you look at it, great essayists have always been a source of inspiration to young writers. Now, if you look at it, essays are, though they are meaningful modes of communication to people who read them, they are not a very large set of people who uh, go on reading uh, go on reading essays to gain communication or information. So we can reject option C here. So option D, which is A and B, because A and B both can be possible answers for this question, are the correct. Option D is the correct answer. So 10th answer of question 10 is D. Moving to the next question. Okay, so let's discuss question 11. Teachers and professionals imparting technical training use speech, writing, and diagrams in various combinations. Dash. Responding to this, the Technical Education Council has recommended a course on communication theory as common core item. Again, look at the last sentence. The last sentence in these type of questions are very, very important. So, responding to this Technical Education Council has recommended a course on communication theory. So we can guess that whatever was in the second sentence, that probably suggested that there was a problem in the communication of the teachers and professionals while imparting technical training, technical training to their students. So, uh, So while going through the options, we look for the option that suggests that there was a problem in communication. So if you look at the three options, it is the option A, where it says yet technical students receive no instruction in the theory and use of information structures in communication. That suggests that there was some problem in the communication. So that's why, responding to this, Technical Education Council recommended a course on communication theory. So option A would be the right answer. See, if we look at option B and option C, soon interactive video will be a common feature of technical education, or steadily failing cost. It should be falling actually, but steadily falling costs have brought on sophisticated information technology uh, to the door of typical classroom. These are actually the enhancements in the education system, in the technical education, and responding to that with a communication theory course would not seem very appropriate. Okay, so that's why we reject option B and option C. So moving to the 12th question. Okay, so let's discuss this question. I'm pleased that you have published my article, Managing Publicity Dash. I've used as I've used the company materials in this. I've used this company material. This omission has caused me some embarrassment. So, so we can see that because in the omitted sentence, uh, the author must have mentioned that the newspaper had made some omission, and since this omission is related to company materials, so it is quite obvious that the newspaper would have uh, might have missed naming the affiliated company of the writer here. So option A, which is however you have failed to indicate my company affiliation along with my name, is the most appropriate answer. So the answer is option A. And moving to the 13th question. Okay, so let's discuss this question. The new telecom companies take a radical approach to product development. Dash. They think instead of what consumers want, and then develop the needed technology. So the option A, they invest very heavily in state-of-art technology. Option B, they do not rely primarily on simulated studies uh, of product acceptability. C, they do not invent a product with old technology and ask marketing to sell it. So basically, the product development that the telecom companies do uh, is different from what is normally done. So, so it could be that also the last sentence has to contradict uh, what the second sentence has been saying. So if you look at option A and the last sentence could run in together uh, without without contradictions. So it might be that they may be investing very heavily in state-of-art technology, and would also ask would also think of what uh, consumers want and develop the needed technology. So A is not the answer. Out of B and C, it's a slightly difficult choice. So option C says they do not invent a product with the old technology and ask marketing to sell it. So this is one way that that the telecom company can go, and the second is they do not rely primarily on simulated studies of product acceptability. So if you look at it, uh, the first part of the last sentence, they think instead of what consumers want. Okay, so they think what the consumers want. So basically, the instead word is for how they come up with what consumers want. Earlier, they relied on simulated studies for what consumers wanted. Now they think, they brainstorm, they had meetings, they think what the consumers want and then develop the needed technology. So by that rationale, B is the answer. See, the problem with C is that it does not really talk about the acceptability of the product. So, uh, so they, so that's why even if B was not there, then I could have fell back on C, for the right answer. But B makes more sense because it talks about the acceptability of the product. So we are going with B. The 14th question. Okay, so let's discuss this one. Herbal medicines worth rupees 900 crores are produced annually in India. Dash. Even the Office of Drugs Controller of India acts only in response to specific complaints. So let's look at the options. However, the investment in R&D across the industry is low. So if you look at it, does not uh, that does not really explain uh, if the R&D investment is R&D investment is low in this industry. Why would Drugs Controller of India act in only response to specific complaints? Uh, the B part. The present rules for ensuring quality are reasonably comprehensive and effective. So if think of it this way, that if the rules are very comprehensive and effective, then why does the drug controller act only in specific complaints? That means it has a lot of complaints. Maybe it has 100 complaints, but it acts only on 10 of them. So clearly, the rules for ensuring quality are not adequate. The option C, the competition to corner the market has, however, led to questionable practices that are to consumers' disadvantage. And since these practices are to consumers' disadvantage, uh, the Drugs Control of India has has also been subject to those questionable practices and acts only in specific complaints. So C is the answer for this question. Here is the 15th question, and this would be the final question for today. Okay, so let's discuss this one. The 15 questions is uh, Cuban Vice President Carlos keeps reminding us that Cuba is not China. Dash, both the indecisiveness of the regime and the hostility of America are the hindrances. So basically, last line suggests that uh, though the first part is correct, that that Cuba is not China, but it is not in a good way, as the vice president would have us believe. It is somewhat in a bad way. So uh, if you look at the three options, you have to look for the things that uh, that make Cuban decisiveness uh, worse as compared to China. So if you look at option A, economic reforms are implemented at much slower pace in Cuba. That seems to be a possible answer. B, sugar and tourism are the main earners of Cuba's foreign exchange. So it does not put Cuba in a bad light against China. So B could not be possibly the answer. C, the Cuba's move towards liberalization Cuba's move towards liberalization have been minimal and cautious. So again, a contrast to China, and in a bad way. So option A and C could be the possible answers, and hence option D would be the answer for this question. So now, before turning off, I would be discussing. I would be discussing the 14th question one more time, since there was some doubt in it. Uh, After, so those of you who feel convinced convinced by the 14 answer, you can leave now, and those who need to revisit the 14th question, uh, they may stick. Yes, and rest can leave. See, the 14th question uh, talks about the even the Office of Drugs Controller of India acts only in response to specific complaints. This line probably suggests that the Drugs Controller of India is affected by somewhat corruption, somewhat malpractices, somewhat what is ailing the industry, and if you look at option B, if the rules are, let's say option B was the answer, so it would have read like this: herbal medicines worth 900 crores are produced annually in India, and then the present rules for ensuring quality are reasonably comprehensive and effective. And after that, you start with the word even the Office of Drug Controller of India acts only in response to specific complaints. So you see that previous question, that second sentence was something positive about the industry, about the controls in the industry, and the next sentence, which starts with even the, uh, you tell something bad about the industry. So obviously the even the part would be incorrect. So it should have been some contrasting words, for example, however, but then it could have made sense. But since the word is even the Office of Drug Controller and follows with some bad news, so probably the sentence earlier to it contained some other bad news. So bad news could be R&D across the industry is low, but that does not really connect with why would the Drug Controller of India act in specific complaints. However, if we say that there are some questionable practices, some malpractices, uh, the that can overflow to the Drugs Control of India, because Drugs Controller of India is also the part of herbal medicines industry. So if there is something questionable practices, malpractices in the industry, that will affect the Drug Controller of India as well. So option C would connect to the last sentence. So option C contains some bad news, and the last sentence with even the part continues that bad stretch. So that's why the C would be the answer for this question. I hope you understood the connection, right? Yeah. So that was all for today's class. I'll see you next week. So goodbye and good night.